So this is the infrastructure and code workflow. What happens that if you have a business requirement, right, and you need to perform many changes, you would use some infrastructure as a code tools. So I've given a list called Terraform, Helm, or Ansible, right? But there are a lot of tools available in the market, or all of them are open source. We can use XYZ. We can in fact use a simple YAML configuration as well, which is storing your configuration in a text file. All right. You have some models. So these models are vendor defined. So for example, a vendor would define, okay, to deploy this configuration, I need to have these models defined in your IaC tools. But here you only need the knowledge of the IaC tools. You will import that model and that documentation, you'll use it. You don't need to know how this network equipment works. You don't need to know how you need to log into the network equipment. You don't need to know how to configure the network equipment. You just need the documentation of the models. Okay, for example, in case of a router, you can have a model for SNMP configuration. You can have a model for your alarm configuration. You can have a model for your port configuration. So these are the models. For example, in Cisco, we have a GBE, the Gigabit Ethernet model, right? In Ericsson, we had to have the managed object models, right? So these kind of models, what we are talking about. So based on those models, we'll have some defined way how to define that into your IaC tools. So we'll look into the documentation. Okay, if we need to change this parameter, it would be part of this model at this place. Okay, we define it in our IaC tool. We'll store it in a central Git server. And whenever we make any changes in the Git configuration, it would be automatically deployed to the network. Suppose there is a parameter called a port configuration, which had a value of 1 Gbps as a network through as a port configuration, right? So we have to change it to 100 Mbps. So what we do, we will just change the configuration in this network config that is stored in Git. And as soon as we change the configuration, it will be automatically deployed in the network. So the deployment and the source of truth, this is solved. So you don't need to look into and always pull the data from the network. It's rather the other way. Whatever you keep the configuration in Git, that would be automatically deployed in the network. In case something happens and you're not able to deploy it, it will throw an error and there would be a drift, what we call a drift in the configuration. So that would be easily detected and you can then solve it. So this is the workflow.